Hey, Seminole State family. Welcome to Research Rally Live. We are faculty librarians at Seminole State College of Florida. I'm Nicole.
I'm Jason.
I'm Ross.
And I'm Claire.
And we want to spend the next 30 minutes doing research with you. We are about to search, sift, sort, and suss our way through several sources. As always, we want to hear from you in the chat, especially if you have a research question. But before we get into that, let's find out what's going on at Seminole State College this coming week. And for that purpose, we have our wonderful colleague, Andrea, joining us.
Hey, hi, all. Hey, everyone. So what's going on this week? We've got, of course, library is tonight at the library in SLM. So come on by, have some snacks, do some karaoke, all kinds of fun stuff going on. We have on Raider Connect, if you can check out all of the events on there, you'll see lots of stitching circles and board game nights and all kinds of other things happening at the libraries. But other than that, on SLM next week on Monday, we have Summer Fun sponsored by Student Life. And then back here in the library on Wednesday, we have a financial literacy workshop. So if you want to learn how to manage your money, come on by in the library. And today's weekly poll results. So this week's question was, what is your dream vacation destination? And the choices were either a beach or island, tropical island, historical city, national park, or amusement park. What do you guys think?
Ooh, did I hear art museum on there?
Historical city?
I'm going national park.
I feel like people want to go to the beach, though.
Well, the winner was Beach Tropical Island with 40% of the votes. So the rest will kind of split. So definitely the vacation destination of choice for this summer. And last but not least, if you are a football fan and you want to play some football here at Seminole State, flag football is starting up and you can see Jeff in the Raider Center for that. And that's all.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrea.
Bye, y'all. Have a great day.
Bye.
Hi, Andrea. Thanks for popping in.
Yeah, legitimately, Andrea is like now behind the scenes, like everything that's going on at the library, she has a hand in, and it's awesome. Like Claire, you were here earlier today doing a stitching circle, right?
I was. We sewed pencil pouches. It was great fun.
Awesome. So again, thanks for joining us. And of course, it's Research Rally Live. So we're librarians, we're doing research. And today we're starting with this topic. And a lot of times, just like in most transactions with students or faculty or staff that need research help, we usually have to rework a topic. I'm not sure if we're going to have to rework this one too much. But Claire, since she was able to join us this week, she said, hey, guess what? Wednesday, May 29th is
National Composting Day.
Yes. Oh, I didn't even do a screen share yet. Yes. And it's interesting because it's actually called Learn About Composting Day. And I was going to ask you, Claire, in particular, since you already know about this, is that because it's like really trying to like focus on like a verb, like learn, like we're not just going to talk about composting. We want you to learn about it so you can do it. I don't know. I felt like that was kind of like an action-y way to present this day. And I thought that was cool. So
Yeah. I do think maybe that learn means like really kind of getting your hands dirty or not just like, I don't do that thing. Well, even if you don't do it, you could learn a little more about it. So out of curiosity here, we're going to do a quick poll. How many people currently compost?
I got 2 bins.
Is it a bin, a trough, or a barrel?
Pardon?
There's different ways to compost, right? Like Ross, do you have a bin, or do you have just a pile on the ground?
It's mostly a pile. I use some old planters that I put into the ground, and every once in a while I stir it around with a shovel. But it's mostly just a bunch of stuff in a pot.
I'm guessing you compost, Claire.
You know, that's an interesting thing. I don't currently compost because my roommate is really weirded out by the idea.
Oh, and guess what? We have your roommate on the show. Bring her on here, the roommate. Let's.
She's weird. Well, her concerns were, well, it's going to smell. And in Florida, especially in the summertime, we have to admit composting can have a little bit of an odor. Unless you're doing like the closed barrel system, and that's a little bit more of an investment I was willing to make. And then we recently got a dog, and the dog loves playing in the yard. And she's like, if we put food scraps out there, we're going to have the dog in the compost bin. So I am not currently composting. This is actually, it's been a while since I have not composted. But when I lived in an apartment, of course, it's very hard to compost in an apartment. But growing up in the 1980s, we were composting pioneers on my block. Nobody else was composting. My mom was super into it. Yeah.
Oh, and the neighbors were like, "What are you doing? You have a pile of trash in your yard." You're like,
why
"No,
do you have this big pile?" Well, we ended up growing pineapples in it, and they were amazing pineapples. I will just say, compost makes amazing pineapples.
So if you just put in composting or National Composting Day, you're going to get a lot of really skewed results. Is this International Compost Day? Because I'm learning about that separately. Oh, I forgot that. Oh, okay.
Jason, screen share your screen whenever you get a chance. I just went ahead and Googled, because I'm a Google girl, to start out, what is composting? What is composting in simple words? And I'm sure, Claire, you can expound on it in real time right now. Controlled aerobic, i.e. oxygen required process that converts organic materials like food trash, only specific certain food trash, right, into nutrient-rich, biologically stable soil amendment or mulch through natural decomposition. Okay,
right. So it's not really dirt when you're done with it. It's basically like super dirt-like fertilizer. And ideally, you get a mix of what are called green and brown sources. So certain examples of browns would be dead leaves, like as you rake up your yard, or coffee grounds are a really common brown. And then greens would be like the weird wilty leaves of your lettuce, or the tail end of your broccoli, or food trash, specifically vegetable and fruit food trash, is really great for composting. Other things can be a little hit and miss, but food scraps are great. Vegetarian food scraps, great for composting.
So this is enviroscienceinc.com. I haven't checked out the authorship or kind of the authority of this source, but since I have a SME, a subject matter expert, Claire, with lots of experience, just a quick checkout. Okay, 6 steps, simple steps to composting. Add materials, browns, greens. We were talking about that. Is it true I can't put eggshells in the compost pile?
You can put them in there. They just are not going to do anything.
It's up to you, Nicole. It's up to you. You do whatever you want. You're a compost girl in a compost world. And you just do...
So eggshells are mostly calcium, right? So calcium isn't going to break down by rotting. And that's basically what composting is. It is accelerated, controlled rotting.
Okay.
Yeah. So don't do it in your bedroom. Like under your bed, don't have like a little composting at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually outside is pretty good. What's that worm doing there? What's number 1 on the worm?
Well, what the worm needs to access the compost pile so that the composting will really happen, because he eats like the food trash and then he.
It could be a she, Nicole. Let's be cool here with our gender pronouns on a he/she worm.
Eat the food trash and then like kind of.
The nutrients
it comes out in a different way and helps.
It comes out as the rear end of the worm, which are technically called castings.
Hold on, let me get a pen. Let me write that one down.
C-A-T.
Okay, so now that we know what composting is, we're asking a question here. Now, composting, you might do this topic for a paper, and can it prevent global warming? That's where we're starting. So we need to look at our language whenever we have a research question. As librarians, we coach people on this. Okay, what are we really asking? Are we specifying what we really want to know? Are we using language responsibly? Do we have emotional language in our question? Things like that. So I don't know. Do we see any emotional or kind of aggressive language here that is presupposing something?
Language. My one concern is that global warming is a really big thing.
Right.
And it can be really challenging to figure out whether an individual action might either make things better or worse.
Okay.
And we might not be able to prevent it just by doing a single action. So maybe global warming's too large and we need to break it down to what we're hoping to do. Is it really about raising temperatures, or is it about making the local trash cycle less bulky? Is it about being more efficient with our disposal methods? Is it about really wanting that nice garden soil when you're done, which is, I suspect, part of why Ross has a small compost empire going? Because you've got a whole bunch of fruit trees, right? And they love compost.
Oh yeah. We fruit trees, all sorts of just native plants and everything. That's what we use instead of topsoil for the most part.
You can put something in, Nicole. Do a Google search and see. I think you're starting to get the new
okay. Do you want
AI
to
overview?
Share? Oh, really? Yeah, the AI does. So yeah, it sounds to me like, can composting prevent global warming? Would be like, we might have to write literally a whole book on that if that was our topic.
Yeah,
Claire, you mentioned global warming.
A lot of it would be really indirect evidence.
Okay, indirect evidence. So those are our first concerns with this topic. So I don't know, can composting, how do we want to rephrase this right now so I can add another ticker?
Well, here, so you could see they have the AI overview now.
Oh.
So it's starting to cherry pick your prompts, but I didn't put in your can composting prevent. I didn't use those kind of dead words. I just put in I just put in composting global warming.
How does composting combat climate change?
Now, climate change is it's actually weirdly a broader term, but it might give us another way to go about it, right? If global warming isn't getting us the results we're looking for, we might try climate change. Or maybe what we want to do is take a couple of these, yes, we think it maybe does this, and use this as our jumping off point.
Okay.
Right, and you can take a look at some of these that are down here. Many of them look like they're, this is a ORG. This looks like another ORG. Here's another one with a nice date on it. Here's another one, UNFCCC. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and maybe this is a good chance to talk about, like, what kind of research project are we doing? Is this for us just because we're curious, or are we trying to meet the guidelines for a specific assignment? And if we're trying to meet the guidelines for a specific assignment, our professor could be requiring us to use specific types of sources.
Okay. Well, for argument's sake, let's say that our professor was letting us use a web
Lettucing?
Some web sources, but we want to be responsible about those web sources. So we've got Jason's screen share up. Composting and global warming is just some keywords he threw in there. So if we were allowed to have a web source, let's see on our list, the front page, we're not going to get into page 35,000, okay, of the Google search, right? So what looks good on that front page that we want to start taking a peek at and sifting? We've got a .gov.
We've got a .gov.
So far, the stuff that we're looking at too is kind of
Composting Council bias detected.
Ooh, but does that mean we can't use it?
No, it doesn't. We just have to consider they're definitely going to be super pro composting, and if there's anything against composting, they probably won't include it anywhere, and we'd need to look for any opposing viewpoints from a different source, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I think we're getting that it reduces the greenhouse gases, which I think ties into your research question. So it starts to chip away at it, and you can corroborate that by this one too, lowers greenhouse gases. So this is a .gov, and then the other one that you didn't like is a .org. So you might have to go find one more.
Like it.
Oh, you said it was biased.
Well,
Everything
I'm just like
bias.
My bias detector went ding 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 ding. I just think if me and Amy Mendoza, one of our other awesome librarians and adjunct English faculty, were talking about this earlier. If an organization has like a purpose, like National Composting Council wants to promote composting, well, they're going to publish information that promotes composting. That is the bias. It doesn't mean they're going to lie. It doesn't mean they're going to cheat. It doesn't mean they're going to be misrepresenting information. They're just definitely going to focus on information that promotes composting. So if there is detracting opinions about composting, or if that's the right term, they're not going to put it up on their website, and simply acknowledging that is just saying that's the bias and that's the result of the bias. Again, they're not going to lie and cheat and steal. Like, it's not, bias doesn't mean you're bad. We all have biases.
And I think this is a great point, Nicole. All information is created by someone. And we're learning more and more that even information created by computer programs like AI are prone to the biases of the materials which they were trained on. So all information is created by someone for a purpose. And we need to be aware of that because every piece of information potentially has bias. We just need to be aware of it.
What about the word bias? What about the word bias?
What about it?
Somebody Google bias.
I don't know. It doesn't sound B-Y-U-S. That's what I'm saying. Bias.
Oh, bias. So Ross, what intrigues you the most about this topic? Looking at how does composting combat climate change, and like, what did you look for anything ahead of our time together?
Well,
today?
I kind of arrived at the same conclusion that you all did too when I was looking at this. Is like, maybe looking at global warming is too much to try to, provide evidence for. But we could start looking at those smaller things, and that was my question: is like, well, what impact does it have? So, like the greenhouse gases, I think would be really effective to then go and look for like a scholarly study that examined like what is the impact of compost on that.
Yeah, that's what jumped out at me too. The idea that methane is created in a landfill, but not from composting. And we know methane is hugely impactful in terms of global warming.
So if I'm putting my trash, at least as much of it as I can, into my composting pile in my backyard, then
it's not creating methane.
Okay. And it's also not adding volume to the landfills, which I guess that's a bonus, right? Like less.
Well, right. Some things have to go in the landfill. There's nowhere else to put them. But a lot of things we could dispose of in alternate ways.
Okay. Did anyone go into the databases yet? Or I can pop up the library website and we can show people. If you want to pop to your screen share anytime, definitely let me know. Or
I just
pop it in.
Search through the main search engine there, so we can do the same thing.
Yeah, and we started at, this is the library homepage. So if you Google SSE Library, if you're you actually do have to be an enrolled student or a faculty or staff, and you can search our databases from this main search box, or you can click on this link for databases and get to our list of databases, and maybe use our subject. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Screen. Our subject list to narrow down into databases that fit your topic. And in this case, before Ross, we'll get to your screen share in just a moment. I probably would see if it's like there's an environmental category, environmental science.
Yeah, there you
that
go.
Might be a good place to start. And this is how I would get to specific databases at Seminole State College of Florida that cover environmental science. So, and I could do a search in here. But again, or I could just start searching here and keep narrowing down and keep going. And if I need help, who am I going to ask?
Librarians.
Oh, right. Sorry, librarians.
There you go.
You can find librarians here too on this library chat 24/7. So anyone that's watching, how many people are watching, Jason?
There's 4 on the eyeball there, so it's 17,000. Nicole, back to you.
Okay, so if any of those 17,000 people need a Seminole State College of Florida librarian or one of our co-op librarians, find us here 24/7, any day of the week, all day, right here in this chat box. All right.
I'd probably use the Credo reference or something like that to try to see where I'm going, because climate change, I think, is a huge thing at this point. Is it climate change? Is it global warming? Are you allowed to say it? Can I do a research topic on it? It's too broad. Well, how broad is it? Well, be more specific. Well, I think we have gotten a little more specific with the composting and the gases. So,
Ross, can you do screen share with your search, or is it like weird because we have one monitor?
Let's see if this works. I think you're seeing what I'm seeing.
We see you.
Oh, it didn't work. Let me try it again. No.
Hey, I got an idea. You can just talk me through what I need to do, just like you're a librarian helping somebody. How about that?
Well,
what do you want me to do?
All I searched was, since I saw the evidence for greenhouse gases, I looked at, composting and greenhouse gases. And again, I think there's probably other ways to say that.
Okay, but you did it here?
Yeah.
Okay, composting in greenhouse gas.
Well, and I just used
and
composting and greenhouse gas.
Okay.
I guess we could look at composting in greenhouses.
Exploding compost pile. And then, so does this look familiar, Ross?
Yeah, that's where I was at right now, and just kind of surveying what's out there. I mean, I see there is research, at least studying the two things. I don't know how they're related in the research yet, but there seems to be something measurable there.
Sign in. This is how you see all available results.
The other cool thing about sign in is you can favorite results, and I've been using that a lot already this term because that way you can't lose your sources. You can just put that little push pin and you can save them to a list, and they're always there for you as long as you're logged in.
Ooh, and then go to my favorites. There it is.
And there they are.
Look at that.
So fancy. All right.
So I'm going to kind of show something cool off. Can we jump over to my screen, Nicole?
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to take a minute to load, apparently.
Yeah, because look at all those tabs.
Let us know in the chat, too.
Claire.
Yeah. I have a tab problem. Who among us has
You might need to get back to that tab instantaneously. I understand.
I might have 16 projects going. It's fine. So I did slightly different keywords from Ross. So I did composting landfill methane because I was really interested in the idea that maybe the amount of methane produced in composting was going to be less than the amount of methane produced from a traditional landfill. And I found some really different results. So this is a way that even though Ross and I are working on the same topic, we're coming at it from different ways and we're getting different results. And that's actually a good thing. That means if you change your approach, if you change your keywords, you're going to find new and but one of the things that jumped out at me right away, look at this one.
Oh, interruptive. If you build it, they will compost. The effects of municipal composting services on household waste disposal and landfill emissions. I like that title because I can read it. I don't have to be a scientist to read that.
It's pretty straightforward. It's also super recent. I mean, 2024, you can't ask for much newer than that. And then that little summary gives us exactly what we were looking for, right? Composting food and garden waste generates less methane emissions than landfills.
But so far, technically, we're just on the emissions and we're just on that part of it and not really the combat or climate change. Okay. And usually what I like to do is I like to take whatever Nicole has served up and just chop it up and then try to feed it back into a search with maybe different keywords. So I guess what I'm saying at this point is, are we now going into that direction? It feels like we're getting away from climate change and now we're just going on the methane and the greenhouse gases.
But doesn't the methane feed the global warming that makes the climate change? So we do have a connection, but fair point, because we are kind of going down one avenue and we could come at it from a different direction for sure. Maybe let's take a quick look at that source, that if we want to point out anything else about this source and how we would suss it out from the library catalog online search engine. And then Jason, if you have some other keywords ready, like a different direction, I'd like to see that and see what else, like what different thing we come up with. So Claire, okay, so this is view online, check for full text. So we should be able to view this article online if this was one of the resources we want to use. Okay.
And one of the nice things is there's a little summary right here, which even before I click the link and load it in the database, it tells me whether or not I'm really interested in this article. So we find out a couple of things just by skimming through this little summary. One, the study is set in Australia. Now, that doesn't mean we can't use it, but it does mean that it's operating in a different context than, say, the United States.
Carla. Hey, Carla. Thanks for chiming in, Carla. Combat makes her think of Mortal Kombat. Aw, hi. She's just stopping by to say hi. So, we usually do like we have our little librarians cheat code thing that on the quick, if we want to ascertain if an article is probably worth digging deeper into or reading the whole thing or reading most of it, we open the article and we look, now that we've looked at the summary, we look at the conclusion paragraph or the in conclusion area. And it gives us some clues of like, oh yeah, this is, even if it tells us, hey, whatever I presupposed prior to actually starting my research is wrong or on point, it gives me that information. So,
all right, let's head straight to.
And again, we call it a cheat code because this doesn't mean we're doing that. We haven't read the article. We aren't doing the research. We're just ascertaining or deciding or figuring out if this article could be of use to us for our research project.
Yeah, and I think while Claire's looking through that, to go back to the gases, I think there's going to be a lot of components that help or hurt, right? The environment and the climate. So if that's one of them, I'd probably try to load up on 2 more and get like a good kind of rule of 3. However, just sharing with the students here, if that's not going in the direction I want, I'm probably, Jason, there's 3 other librarians on the panel, I might deviate from that whole methane gas thing and get away from it, right? You have to make a decision as the researcher and have the conversations with your grading professor and see, is this direction it's going? If not, I think it's getting away. Uh-oh, you got a hi, Carla.
Yeah, I did a hi, Carla.
Right? But it's up to you. And again, if your professor says, that's it, you can never, ever change this topic ever again, it doesn't matter, then, you got to pick it probably. But we got how does composting combat climate change? And we've done it for 30 minutes, but I don't know if we've gotten to that yet.
Okay.
So looking at the conclusion, just reading these last couple of paragraphs, this looks really promising. Interestingly enough, because this is not the National Composting Council, they actually mentioned some downsides that they found in their particular study. One of the downsides was that there was a spillover effect, meaning that sometimes things that should have gone into the composting bins went into either the recycling bins or the trash bins instead. So sometimes what could be recycled was getting contaminated by the composting stuff.
Okay.
So that's a potential negative right there. But they also talk about how successful it was. They reduced the amount going into the landfill by about 1/4. That's pretty big.
Yep. All right, Jason. So can I put your screen share up so we can see the direction you came from? Because fair point. And this is what happens in research is like, we can attack it from different sides. And like Jason said, there's more than one librarian on the panel. We don't have a hive mind, right? Right, guys? We're not like run by AI. We're not bots. So we have differences of opinions and viewpoints, and we kind of, merge them together and discover different things we can do in research. Do you want me to add you to the stage?
You could, yeah. I'm just kind of popping around.
Okay.
Where did I go here? Composting, climate change. Again, you have climate change, composting. To Carla's point, I didn't use the word combat, but this is a .org. The first one that came up, I would this is that council again that could have had some bias to it. This one's a .gov, which looks okay, but it's almost 4 years now. This is the same graphic that we've already seen somewhere along the lines at some point here. But yeah, we're looking at this all from different directions. I would want to see if I would probably go down to here when you were asking Ross if anybody has cited any of those articles. I'd probably look under composting, climate change, and maybe that's not my final landing spot with those 3 words, but here's 2023 right on the top, assessing the climate change mitigation, food waste composting, sustainable contribution. I don't see solid waste and mitigating. So here's a word where combat we'd probably maybe change it to mitigating. Maybe now we're getting into different, different verbs. Climate change mitigation. So here's another mitigation. 2 mitigates. Offsite. It's starting to go in that direction.
Okay, so we haven't even composting and human waste. So we can say now this topic is flowering out. There's more than it's not just about your banana peels in your backyard, right? So all right. So
this one, however, look at the date. It's 2001. Composting as a strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which I think is what we were talking about on those previous ones. So once again, to my point, if that's one way to do it, I'd want to look for some other ways, because that is not the only way to do it.
Okay.
You can't say we're going to save the planet by putting the worm in the greens and the browns. I think is what you said with air quotes.
Yeah,
I don't know why those were in quotes.
Well, because the color isn't actually necessarily the only reason something is considered a green or a brown.
The only time I did it is Back to the Future at the end, where they put the banana peel in the beer can in the flux capacitor, and that's how they got Back to the Future. That was composting. That's how I know how to do it.
That was something.
It was Hollywood something. That's right. It was Hollywood magic.
Okay, time.
Oh no! Get away from my tag! Don't see what's on my screen.
I don't need to see Jason's calendar. Okay. But if you actually want to know a lot of what Jason's is doing, and a lot of us here at Seminole State College of Florida, the librarians, again, just to reiterate, if I can find the thing, Raider Connect events that have all kinds of purposes, learning, fun, socialization, like the stitching circle that Claire did here earlier today. And those happen at Altamont, Novito. So lots to check out. So I want to go ahead and plug that again. And gosh, are we missing anything else before we sign off here?
I think that's it, Nicole. Did we solve today's quandary? Did we get the query? Did we figure it out? Did we land on it?
Have a direction to head and some good potential sources.
Yeah, and I think we kind of could say, if we can't completely answer the question, I think composting affects, at the very least, global warming and climate change. I think we've seen that from a couple reputable sources. To what extent, in what way, a worthy way, we don't know yet. We'd have to do more research, right? And if we needed to do more research, who would we contact?
Librarians.
Yeah, you got it this time.
We got the chat right there. So thank you for joining us today. Remember, we are librarians. We are here to assist you with research, citations, and information needs. There's no question too big, no question too small, no question too weird. We want to hear it. We can save you time and stress. So why haven't we heard from you yet? You can make a research appointment or use 24/7 library chat. Those and additional contact options are linked on the library website, sem.st/library. You can find us there. And if you need FYE credit for today, Jason, do we have a link, or we can have people text us? Oh, perfect. He had it ready. Man, it's right there. So if you are in the first year experience flight path IDS course and you need credit for attending today, go ahead and click on that link and we'll get you your credit. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. It's so nice. I don't want to leave. I just want to hang out here the rest of the day. But no, we got other things to do. We have library.
Yep, we got to get going. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys. It's been
Thanks, everyone.
Nicole,
where's the outro?
I'm always looking for it.
Where's the outro?